we'll go with the discussion forum. So there are a few questions from the discussion forum and in the response sheet as well. So I think we can start with the discussion forum questions, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So is there like the thing is, I'm not if you can tell me which is there a specific thing that to address, or okay, I'll read out the question and then we can take it from there. Is that okay?
Yeah. If you're comfortable with that, otherwise I can read out the questions. I think I have shared the questions, right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I have the questions. I'll just read out the questions. So the first question is it fair to say that, yeah, Amrita, actually, can you read out the question?
Sure. I'll do.
Just easier with the screen and everything.
Yes. Is it fair to say that one has to go through a study to construct an ethogram for a bird species before assigning the context? In other words, it requires I didn't get that.
Human intelligence. Yeah.
Human intel. Okay, human intel on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. The assumption is correct. You do need human intel because unless the acoustic, unless there is a context, it's very difficult to say what something means. So it needs to be contextualized.
Yeah, I think if the students who have asked the questions need further explanation or further queries, please unmute yourself and ask. So I'm going with the second question. You have shown a fascinating study on the white-crowned sparrow and variation of its song within a small geographical area. So the student's question is like, does an like Merlin ID have all the variations stored to provide a bird ID, or does it triangulate based on expected location, the GPS, and songs recorded at that specific location? How does that work?
That's an excellent question. So is this person who asked the question in the meeting?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Is that Amartha Ramamurthy, the student?
Yeah. Hi, Ram. Yeah. So I would ask you to take a guess.
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Yeah, great to have you here. Yeah.
So I just joined. Can you tell me what you asked me?
No, so we're just discussing the question that you had asked.
Yes.
Which is on this study on the white-crowned sparrow and the variation of song.
Right.
And Merlin ID has all the, if it can do the variations.
Yeah, exactly. So my question is, does Merlin ID have, especially when you have investigations like this, where a micro geography can change the sound acoustic signal, does Merlin have the capability to sort of monitor all those kinds of variations?
What do you think?
I would expect it to, because as long as somebody went there and reported it, and if it was not recognized, I'm hoping somebody would back end in Cornell would investigate it and would sort of figure this out. Am I right?
So what might be the circumstance when this may not be recognized?
Oh, when the thing may not
be recognized. Is not. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's going to be a wild guess. Unless there is something, I cannot really point out the reason, but unless there is something extreme about the bird, that Merlin is still not figured out. So I don't know.
Yeah, or that is one possibility. Or if the variation has not been documented on the Cornell.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant beginning. So if nobody has reported such a variation and Merlin, as you know, the Cornell folks have not had a chance to sort of investigate,
Yeah.
then you would come up with nothing, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So if you're training,
Okay.
it only depends only on the extent of training data that is there.
Right.
So if,
Okay.
if you don't have the training data that covers the variation, then you won't get it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So
Amrita?
yes. So the next question is also by Ram. So if one is embarked on an ethogram study to correlate bird vocalization to context, are playbacks allowed as a part of this research? So his question.
Yeah. All right, Ram. I'll ask you to take another guess at this one as well. Ram, can you hear me?
Okay. I think I got it. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. So see, for me, as long as one knows what the effects of the playbacks are and they can account for it by observational studies, then as long as it is noted, I guess it's okay. Unless other researchers who are doing the same types of things say the protocol says, no, you cannot do it, then you shouldn't do it. So I don't know how it's actually done.
So what would a playback do?
Well, the playback, as you pointed out yourself, that has got the effect of actually simulating another male. So it could actually have a call which is more of an aggressive call, a defending call, as opposed to, let us say, anything else, right? So you might be biasing the acoustic signal itself, I would think.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen this in my backyard. When I play the black-capped chickadee, now that I know all this only because of all this class, when I play the black-capped chickadee, the response that I get is not the normal call.
Yeah.
It is more of an aggressive call. So you're sort of biasing the acoustic signal that you're trying to get. So is that allowed?
No, it depends on the question you're asking.
Actually, quarterly time also ನೀನು ಇರಲ್ಲ. ನೀನು ಮುಂಚೆನೇ
Somebody else is talking.
Yeah, there's someone else.
Sorry.
Yashashwini.
Can you mute that person? Yashashwini.
Amrita, can you mute
the
her?
host. Oh God.
ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇವರು ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಈ ತರ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು
Yashaswini,
ಸಡನ್
can
ಆಗಿ
you
ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದಕ್ಕೆ
Amrita, you should be able to
Amrita, you
mute.
can mute, I think.
No,
Quarterly
I'm not
quarterly
the host. I think
Yeah, the host,
NPTEL.
NPTEL,
Yeah.
you're the co-host, Amrita, maybe you can. Yeah, it's done. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I think you got the answer absolutely right, Ram. That's exactly what it is. So it depends on the question, though, that you're kind of trying to answer. In general, what you described is perfect. It can impact the behavior, the normal behavior, but it depends on what you're trying to research. Maybe that's not the, if you're looking at, let's say, I don't know, nesting behavior, so then it may not impact it as much. But it is likely. I mean, most often playback does impact, right? That's the whole reason of playback is for that. Yeah. Next question then.
Yeah. Okay. So next question is also by Ram only. So in the lecture, you have talked about birds also would prefer to minimize variability within a given area. Which are the best studied examples where a female does or recognize the male, since the dialect seems very different?
Yeah. So I think that yeah, there are quite a few. I think Trevor Price's book is a great one to start with, because he talks about the song differences being a precursor to evolutionary changes. So I think that that might be a good book to start with.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm asking too many questions, I guess.
No, that's perfectly fine. This is what it's for.
Yeah. Okay. And so that he has asked about the citation of article that Trevor is the same reference which you're talking. Yeah.
This is the old Orioles. I couldn't find it at all. I looked up Google Scholar for Trevor Price. I could not get that exact. This is the phylogeny as it relates to the old world Orioles. I could not get that reference at all.
Yeah, check the book. I think the book is where you might find most of the interesting things. And if you're referring to something from my talk, I might have used
from your talk.
Yeah, then I might have used the book as a source.
Got it.
Yeah. So our next question is by Ramondi. So pigeons, flycatchers with possible phylogenetic constraints in their songs. Is this also true with oscines?
Can you explain that a little bit?
So in the lecture you have mentioned, I think Ram can explain. Yeah, please.
See, the thing is, I do not know if being a bird being an oscine, does it also pose the same kind of restrictions that you mentioned in the lecture as you saw in the case of the birds that you that are not oscines? Is it something so special about these oscines that they don't have these kinds of restrictions?
Yeah, I can share something with you. But I think Manjari is also here. Manjari, are you here? Would you like to? I saw Manjari coming in. Yeah. I can see Manjari. Yeah, Manjari, if you'd like to chip in, please step in at any time. But in general, it's about song learning, Ram. It's like it's generally thought that one set of birds are open-ended learners and another is not. So the extent of variation that is there is supposedly very different. So this is one of the main things. And Manjari, you can add, please.
Yeah, so as we discussed in the lecture, oscines have more complex songs than sub-oscines, and sub-oscines are expected to have, it's not as though we know from every single bird has been tested using neurobiological experiments, but we know that sub-oscines are expected to have a template at birth. So in some sense, it is an innate thing, which is hardwired. The song is hardwired, it's already there. On the other hand, oscines, they learn it. However, even in learning, there is a species template existing. So it's not as though there is it's not like tabula rasa where your mind is a blank slate and everything is from scratch being learned. So there is some sort of a template. This is what has, in the sensory phase, when the birds memorize the tutor's song, which helps them to form an auditory memory or template. This happens for the oscines, but the ability to do that is there already in the oscines, but they're learning how to form this template. And then in the sensory motor phase, somebody had asked this question, so I'll continue with that. In the sensory motor phase, what happens is, based on this template, which has formed because of who your tutor was, now the bird starts to produce some soft vocalizations called the subsong. It's like babbling. Okay. And at the very end, and then they practice and the song gets refined and finally it is crystallized. So the innate template is there in sub-oscines. Template is there even in oscines, but it is acquired from the tutor. That is how you can think of it. Does that address your question?
Dr. Manjari, I have a follow-up though. So how do I distinguish between the fact that both oscines and sub-oscines seem to have a template? It is very clear from your lecture.
So
and
if
also
you
from
don't
reading.
have a tutor, sub-oscines will still produce the song. On the other hand, oscines will not. So you can do fostering experiments and that can help you.
Got it. Very clear.
Yeah.
So shall I move to the next question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So we need to examine a bird vocalization with minimum distortion from factors that you have pointed out, that habitat, water bodies, and humidity. What is the ideal space, if there is one, where we expect minimum distortion? That is the question. Yeah. Is that clear, the question?
Yeah, the question's clear. The question is clear. I think there's nothing like no distortion, right? Because then you have to be in a soundproof chamber. That's the no distortion. But anywhere else, there is some distortion. But the point is that there's always the whole idea is with acoustic adaptation hypothesis and things like that is that animals are kind of adapting to the distortions and things that are there because of either too many trees or open habitats or something like that. So this acoustic adaptation hypothesis, which I think I covered at least, I don't know if Manjari also may have covered, but that is one of the hypotheses. There is some support for it. There is not some support in some other cases, but it's a good idea on those lines. Manjari, you have.
Yeah, so distortion can happen in multiple ways. So there's something called spectral filtering. Then there is something like the envelope distortion, which is where the packet of the envelope of the call gets distorted. And of course, there is reduction in the sound energy in the sound, okay, the sound pressure level. So this is called attenuation. So all three will happen merely by the fact that sound can be thought of as the sound is moving from the point source or from the signaler towards the receiver. It is what is sound? Basically, it is like a spreading sphere. The packet of energy is getting diluted over these more particles that it is spreading to, right? So therefore, distortion is inherently happening anyway. By spherical spreading, automatically attenuation is happening. Even if we were in an anechoic chamber, attenuation will still happen. Okay, but temporal distortion and spectral distortion are habitat dependent very strongly, and attenuation in excess of spherical spreading, which is known as excess attenuation, that is habitat dependent. Does that address your question?
Oh, yes, sure, it does. Could you actually give us some kind of a citation for this so that I could follow up and read more of these
For the
distortions?
acoustic adaptation hypothesis?
No, for these distortions that you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, you can, I mean, it's very nicely, lucidly explained in Principles of Animal Communication by Bradbury and Wernkamp. I think it's chapter 2 or 3. You can just, if you can find it easily, then great. Otherwise, we can find a way to send a
No, I can get it.
PDF of the chapter to you. Yeah.
No, I can get it.
Okay.
So there is another question. What should the sampling rate of your recorder be set to in order to record all the 3 woodpecker species? I think Ram has answered it in the discussion forum, but yeah, that's the question.
I took the liberty of answering it because that's something that I did know the answer to. So I'm not too sure if Robin and Manjari agree, but anyway.
Well, what is the answer you gave? Can
The
you
answer
tell?
I gave is, I didn't give the actually answer to the question, but I just said there is something called the Nyquist theorem, which states that you have to have a certain
correct.
sample frequency. And I did talk about the fact that what happens if you oversample,
Yeah.
in very brief terms, and what happens if you undersample, like aliasing and so on. I didn't go into details of what aliasing is. And I said, take a look at the spectrum and see where the information content is, and then decide, use the Nyquist theorem, and then decide as to what the frequency should be.
Nyquist frequency should typically be whatever your frequency of interest is there. If you already know, then what we usually do, the rule of thumb is we double the sampling rate. So the sampling rate should be double of what you're sampling of your frequency of interest. So say, for instance, the bird that you're trying to record calls at 5 kilohertz. So say 5,000 hertz. Okay. So then your sampling should be at least at 10,000, if not more. And that is why typically all recorders that record audible range signals, which means up to 20 kilohertz, have a sampling frequency of 4400 hertz, 44,000 hertz. 44100 is the sampling rate of all recorders. So therefore, half of that, if you take, that is about 20 kilohertz, that will be reliably recorded. So yeah, you answered it right. Okay.
That's an area that I had pretty good expertise from the past, in my past life. So that's something I could answer.
Great. So there are a few questions in the response sheets as well. So Dilip has asked about, just a second. It's not opening for me. Yeah. Please explain the brain regions associated with vocalization and the sensory motor phase. I think this is asked by Vijaya Bharat. Yeah.
So for a specific phase, is that what she's asking? Or does she mean the brain regions for bird song production?
So I would like to
think
know about
vocalization.
I would like to know about the brain regions for song production.
Yeah,
The
so
pathway,
if you,
the neural pathway.
yeah, so the neural control of bird songs, like I had mentioned in the um, lecture. So there is the HVC, RA, LMAN, Area X, DLM. Okay, all of these are there. And these are all involved in song production. You want me to go over that lecture again? So then I can what is really the question? Can I? Because it's already there in the lecture, so I don't want to repeat the lecture.
Actually, it was not very clear to me, the pathway, those black lines and the red lines which you had indicated.
So the black one
if
is
there is time, you may please explain that to me. Or I can listen to the lecture
the
again and
black
try to
lines
understand.
depict the motor pathway, and the red lines depict the anterior forebrain pathway. And the HVC, which is formerly known as the higher vocal complex, it will project into the RA, which has a certain name, which sends signals to the vocal organ of the bird, which allows the bird to sing. Okay, so if you look at the picture, the black line indicates the motor control. So from HVC to RA, from RA to the syrinx and the respiratory, the muscles that control respiration, that is the motor pathway. Okay.
Okay.
And how do we know that this is how it works? We know that this is how it works because if you actually surgically remove parts of the brain, then you can see how song production is, how shall I say, affected. Okay, so song learning itself is not affected by lesions to the region, but lesions to the region before crystallization will result in the final song being abnormal. It will not be the normal song that it produces. So this is done by, these are invasive experiments where you, how do I say, remove certain or damage, if you like, certain parts of the brain, and then you can understand the function of, which pathways resulting in what. So that's how we find out function. Okay.
Thank you.
So the anterior forebrain pathway, the one in red, that you can just simply remember this, that the red one is responsible for song learning and in increasing the repertoire of the song, so plasticity, while the black one allows the bird to actually sing. It controls the motor neurons which allow the bird to sing. Okay, black is for motor neurons, and you can think red is for the learning and plasticity. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So, hello, am I audible? So
Yes,
will
sure.
so there are some questions in the live chat. What are all the what are all factors called bird ecology? Naresh has asked. I don't know what he.
Yeah. Naresh, are you here? Yeah, this sounds like a question you usually ask ChatGPT, but since I'm here, we can fill in. Uh,
Yes,
uh,
sir.
yeah. So, what do you think is called bird ecology?
Sir, what are the all factors which called bird ecology?
Yeah.
When we say bird ecology के अंदर, sir, what are the all factors including?
Yeah.
Which factors are included?
Yeah. Tell me. Let's start with some guesses first from you.
Uh, the, the plants, trees, residential areas, garbage areas.
Hmm. So why would plants and trees be part of the ecology?
Because their availability of food and
Correct.
roasting,
Yes.
nesting,
Yes. Perfect. Yeah.
sir.
Then anything else can come in?
Water and food, water.
Perfect. Water. Yeah. But water can also result in, let's say, if water you're talking about rainfall, that also changes some other things, right?
Sir.
So what will that change?
Sir, I cannot understand what are you saying.
No. See, water, there is different kinds of water, no? Like there's
Yes,
water
sir.
when it is
Water
water,
bodies,
water
near.
bodies. But there's also water when it comes as rain.
Sir, this is also called included in bird ecology.
No, I'm asking you, what happens when there is water in the form of rain? What happens to
Rain.
the place?
After that, the insects are coming out from the soil.
Perfect.
So birds attract more in that time.
Yeah, perfect. And then what else? What are the other things that you think affect birds?
Mainly, sir, roasting place, fooding, habit.
Oh, yeah. That is done.
Sir, I know. So
Yeah. So in general, I think you're on the right track. Basically, you've kind of you mostly thought about the biotic factors, and that is basically also the factors that birds depend on. But there are also various other factors like abiotic factors, which is what I was trying to push you towards. It may be humidity, temperature, rainfall, all of those things. So climatic factors. It can also be just like, I don't know, soil, various factors with the soil chemistry or things like that. There can also be other biological factors like competition, predation. So there's a whole range of things that go into making ecology, which is the same for any species, also for birds.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think
there was some
questions.
interesting question on but that person is not on the Zoom. He said, sad to learn that some juvenile birds have been deafened so as to find out their to understand songs. This I mean, it sounds like it's very cruel. It probably is, but there is some method to this madness. I mean, people have to like when in universities, when people do such research, there is an ethics committee, and then you have to defend why this is important to do. What does it help answer? a lot of our understanding of disease and, several things about brain and things like that have come from such experiments. So while today we have the luxury of saying that these are kind of cruel, but it has gone to serve and make our lives quite valuable as well.
All of the pharmaceutical industry, all the medicines that we have, the reason why we have antibiotics, the reason why we have surgery, the reason why we know the function of different parts of the brain and various other organs requires some invasive experiments, and that is part and parcel of science. And of course, there is the animal ethics involved, where we minimize the cost to any living organism. So we minimize the use of living organisms for this, but for some experiments we would just not know otherwise. There is no other way. So yeah, ChatGPT will not help there.
Yeah, I think we've mostly done with all the questions. There's some question in the chat box that's coming up, it looks like.
There is a follow-up question in the response sheet, the same comment to Robin regarding the spectrogram view of the song. So how you able to get a sense of the song by looking at the graphs of time versus amplitude and frequency?
Yeah, that's a nice question. When people learn music, there's this musical notations of how music is written, right? I mean, initially, or let's say for someone who's not trained, you look at the musical notations, it just looks like some jumbled symbols. But somebody who's kind of practiced this, who knows what it means, they can actually imagine when they just look at those notations, they can imagine what the sound is. And that only comes from experience, where you're kind of connecting sounds to certain let's say shapes. So spectrograms are just giving you a visual version of a sound, and if you start like staring at it for long enough, I think you will when you look at a song, when you look at a spectrogram, you'll be able to visualize what it sounds like. And the opposite, where you listen to a bird and you will be able to kind of picture what the spectrogram looks like. So this is just a practice kind of thing. Yeah. Would you like to add, Manjari?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, there are, before going to the live chat questions, there are two questions for Manjari, right? I've shared that. I think one you answered already regarding the ossines and subossines, both come with a template of, from birth. So should I read that or two questions?
Yeah, which one have I not answered? I thought I answered both.
The first one, did you answer? Is that it's zebra finches sensory phase around 25 days and sensorimeter, the markers of beginning of any vocalization. I think you answered both. Yeah.
Yeah, I answered both. But basically, we will know when they start babbling, that means the next phase has started. The first is only forming the memory, auditory memory of the template. I answered both, I thought. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think we'll move to the chat questions. I had a question. Okay, so this is Manan. Can you please unmute and ask the question?
Yeah, sure. So it's from Professor Manjari's lecture about murmurations in starlings. So I was just wondering about
I think this is previous week's question.
Yeah.
Manan, you will
That's
have to write and give it to Amrita. I will take it, I will give a written response.
Okay,
This
yeah,
week,
sure.
I think we will limit it to vocalization.
Okay, sure.
So please post your question on the discussion forum so I can copy that question to Manjari. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So another question from Anand. Any enough research being done on understanding word group vocabulary? So his observation, individuals have very distinct personalities. So layman's perspective, their vocabulary is more complex beyond human understanding of nature. Similar examples of whales, even trees communicating and opening up large dictionaries. So what lies beyond mating or territorial threat perception? Is this dictionary being expanded? So this question is regarding the vocabulary, bird group vocabulary. Is there any research being done? Yeah.
Yeah, so you're here, right, Anand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what do you think, Anand?
Yeah, very much. I think they have a huge dictionary, and yeah, we haven't even scratched the surface. But just wanted to know if I'm sure there is a lot of work happening. Anything available for laypersons like us to learn from?
Yeah, no, what you described is absolutely spot on. There are some really nice popular science books that we can post back. Amrita, you have a way of reaching people later?
Sorry, Robin.
Is
Can you
there a
please
way to
repeat?
send like a reading list of, some things that they can read?
Yeah, so there is reading material we are posting on the NPTEL portal. Also, we can mail the students in the discussion forum. So if
Okay.
you are texting me the materials list, I can post. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll send you
Sure.
some reading.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'll share to all the students so you can view on the discussion forum. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, so Ranjita has asked about non-invasive methods developed about, I didn't get the question complete. So she has
Yeah.
asked about non-invasive methods developed regarding what? Ranjita, can
Yeah.
you please unmute?
I can guess. It's about the brain function question.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think there is definitely value to a lot of non-invasive ways of doing things. For example, if you're working on genetics and things like that, you can there are models that you can build. You can understand what different models do, but very often the gold standard is definitely an animal test. So if you know the pharmaceutical industry or something like that, there are these different grades, right? You first show it in some that this thing works in some way, then you show it in another way, and then you move to animal testing, and then you have to do human testing. So there's a reason for all of those steps. I mean, unfortunately, that's how we value life. But I think everything has its own role and value. So definitely, there are non-invasive methods. But yeah, Manjari.
Yeah, for some of these things, there is no other way. So, yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Unless,
Yeah.
like, for instance, now what people are doing is to develop better ways in which, the bird is not affected. And in fact, so much so, under medication, they can even, while, electrodes are being planted in their brain, they can still walk around and even sing. So I have seen in Max Planck and in some other places where there is a little tiny chip in the sticking out of the head of a bird, and you can simply plug it, to your device and start taking recordings while it is freely moving around and everything. So, those kind of course, methods have developed to help uh, minimize the cost of such invasive procedures, but some amount of invasive procedures are always there. In fact, let me also tell you something, that when you are going bird watching, what do you think? It's not invasive. We are entering the habitat of the bird and animals. When we are sampling in the forest, we are actually, it is invasive in its own extent. So there's different degrees to which, we disturb an animal. Yeah. So, yeah, some of this is inevitable, and one only devices techniques to minimize pain and suffering for the animal.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, please, Ram.
Okay, so in the world of non-living things, the reason why we are able to even fly a plane or drive a car is because of all the destructive testing that we have done to study failure of objects. So that world started a long time ago. So any invention that has happened in the non-living world has also come through a whole lot of destructive testing, although currently we have non-destructive testing where you don't have to do any of these breaking down of things. So I remember cost is a big factor for when you have to go and destroy objects to study things. So the parallel is still there in non-living objects.
Amruta, if there are no further questions, can I leave?
Sure, I think there are no questions. Sorry.
You can
So-
leave.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice
Thank
talking.
Thank you,
you.
Robin
Thank
and
you.
Manjari. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Amruta.
everyone.
Bye, Robin.
Yeah. Hope you're
Bye.
enjoying the course. Yeah. Bye.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
Thank
very
you. I
much.
hope those
Thank you very much.
book names are shared or links are shared. Thank you.